I'm spending some time this morning talking about autism, which is what they say the fastest growing developmental syndrome in the world. Now, art is such a vital way for individuals with autism to express themselves, so I'm talking with a local artist and educator who's had the privilege of working with some autistic children. Janice, thank you again for being on the show today. And before we had to take a quick break, Janice, you were talking about a specific student that you're instructing right now. Tell me about that student.
Well, I'll give you a little history. I've been working in clay for many years. I love working with clay. It's so tactile, and doing sculpture. And I've used it, I've used clay when I was taught elementary school, but also when I taught adolescent boys through the drug court program. And I've even used it in the jails when I've gone in the jails as a volunteer, art is very therapeutic because, or at least it shouldn't be, it should be self-expression. We're not telling anybody they did it right or wrong. You know, some of the greatest artists were told they did it all wrong, and now I'm like poor Van Gogh never sold.
Right.
Just a thing, and who knows what Picasso, I mean, the way he saw things.
Right, right.
So, I mean, the idea is to let them express themselves, and the autism is really a neurodevelopmental problem, whereas they don't see things the same way we do. Actually, they're very visual, but they don't have the communication skills because of brain chemistry or brain synapses. There's all kinds of theories as why. I mean, the latest one was about vaccines, but they've poo-pooed that one too. I think autism's been around a long time. They just didn't diagnose it, and now we understand how it works, and there's all kinds of tests and milestones that you test. Anyway, I was at the college doing my clay, and recently one of my dearest friends passed, Rose Lopez, who was our local, everybody knew Rose, she was Mother Rose, and her granddaughter, Charles Lynn, has autism, and when Rose died, I promised myself I would do whatever I could to help her. And while at the college working on my own clay and ceramics, there's a young girl there, Amanda, who is now 19, but when she was just maybe 4 or 5 years old, they diagnosed her as being retarded, and she wasn't. She's, a matter of fact, I hope you have her on the show. She's graduating in like a weight at 4.0. She's the top. She's going away to college. It took a lot of work on her mother's part, and a lot of one-on-one individualized work. For 2 years, she's been over at the college working the ceramics lab, and everybody there has just been marvelous, helping her. And very often, artistic children won't look you in the eye. They won't communicate with you because they don't know how. And this little girl will come right up to you and ask you where something is, or what are you doing, or and recently when I had Charles Lynn come in, Charles Lynn is 14, and she'll be up there on the screen soon. I asked Amanda, I said, could you show Charles Lynn how to do this in clay? So I had the one helping the other. Very often peers, especially they're both autistic, you know, they can relate to each other so much better than we can.
Right, right.
It's so often, because someone is different, we judge them as, you know. I like the story about a deaf person walks in a room full of people dancing, and they're going to think they're all nuts because they don't hear the music.
Right.
Well, it's the same analogy with autism. They just don't perceive things the way we do. It's not that they're stupid or mean, or, I mean, sometimes they're known for having anger issues, but if you're constantly trying to communicate something and someone doesn't get it, or you can't get your point across, you get frustrated, especially when you're 5 years old.
Right, right.
I mean, I sometimes feel that way with my husband.
Absolutely. Well, you're not alone. A lot of people feel that way with their spouses.
Right, you know, why don't you understand? So anyway, this kid is just, is amazing when it comes to art, and it's just such a great vehicle because she can see what she's doing, she can feel it, and there's so many perceptions going on, shapes, math, visual, audio, communication skills, the idea that she's working with another child. Anyway, FKCC is just the ceramics lab run by Jay Gogan. It's just a wonderful, nurturing place. And everybody just pitches in and is really friendly. And I've just watched these little girls blooming.
Right. And what's their work like, Janice? Like, what's the end product like after you give them? Do you give them something to draw?
There's
or
a mask up there, or there was a mask up there a minute ago. I start out with very simple things. Masks are one easy thing. I mean, it's just very simple. You take like a Coke can covered with newspaper and put a layer of clay on it, and then add stuff or take things out. And it's a simple face. But it's amazing, you know, expressions, facial expressions are real important. They don't, very often the autistic kid doesn't read facial expressions. You know, if I'm sitting there like, you know, you might think, oh, she's bored, but an autistic kid wouldn't get it because of their neurons just don't work the way the neurotypical, we're neurotypical, you know. I always knew I had a problem. Maybe I'm atypical.
So the end product, though?
The end product is like anything. They start out slow, but actually Charles Lynn's masks were pretty good. And now Amanda, who's been doing it for 2 years, she's actually firing her own work in the raku kiln and glazing them. She does a lot of spiritual things. They're very Christian, but they're beautiful. They're very well done. She's kind of obsessed right now with crosses, but they're perfect. And
Wonderful.
she makes little dishes. She made a whole set of little dishes for Mother's Day for her mother. She had a tea party for her mother. Very, very sweet. But
so you're so
it's
impressed.
come a long way. Yes.
You're impressed with their work, and you're also impressed in the growth that they've made since
Right.
they've been under your instruction. Well, thank you, Janice, for sharing all of this with us this morning, okay? We're going to take a quick break, everyone, but I'll be back after these messages with Charlie Wilson from Help Yourself Cafe located in Key West. Stay with me.